All right, so I am very honored again to be on the stage with Ms. McCutcheon. She's our Program Integrity Manager. And last year we introduced you to this concept of white glove customer service. It's really at the heart of what we do as an agency. A best-in-class customer service is in our mission statement. Um, we try to live it on a daily basis. And we introduced that concept to you last year, but since then we've implemented some new programs to kind of bear that out. And so Meg, can you update us on some of those new programs?
Sure, I would love to. First of all, thank you all for being here today. I know as unit administrators, you are all so busy, but I really appreciate you all coming and taking the time to come and learn more about our program because it will really help your employees. So we've really been working hard on this thing called white glove service. And to us, that means going above and beyond for all of our customers. So in our most recent customer survey satisfaction survey, we received over a 90% from you guys. As David mentioned, we've gotten our processing time down to 1 day. We were processing everything the same day during open enrollment last year. And we're also really working with our team to make sure that everybody has the knowledge needed so that when you call in, we're able to help you and give you all of the information that you need.
Meg, thank you for that update. And we've got members of our enrollment team here, and I want to take a moment to recognize them. So we've got Lakin Del Rivero, Kimberly Bennett, Charmaine Stanton, and our newest member, Haley Legier. And guys, I really wanted you guys to meet them, and really, they're on the front lines dealing with you guys on a daily basis, processing the forms, working with you guys, and they really embody this customer service that we're talking about. And we're really proud of the effort they've done. So, all right, so we're going to dive right into our enrollment rules. But before we do, I'd just like to have a show of hands. How many are you here for the first time? Okay, so for the next 30 minutes, we're glad you're here. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to try to give as much information as possible on our enrollment rules. We have 30 minutes. So we will try to answer as many questions as possible if we have time, but if we don't have time, please come see me over to the side because I'll be glad to answer any question you have. I don't want anyone leaving today with a question that's unanswered. So please come see us, either me or Meg, we'll be glad to answer anything that you have. So let's just start at the very beginning. What is a full-time employee under our plan?
All right, a full-time employee is an employee that receives a W-2, is in an employee-employer relationship, and regularly works 30 hours or more per week.
Guys, that is the key, the 30 hours or more, right? Because you may have a different definition for full-time and part-time at your agency, and that's fine, but just remember for insurance purposes, it's 30 hours or more. So how many of you have 50 or more employees? Okay, pay attention to what I'm about to say. Under our plan, temporary, part-time, seasonal, contract, intermittent employees are not eligible for our coverage. However, if you have 50 or more employees, you're subject to the ACA requirements, and you need to be tracking those employees' hours to see if they work 30 or more hours per week or 130 hours per month. It's very important. That's an ACE federal law requirement. We've updated our forms recently to try to simplify that and try to provide more information on those forms. I understand it's complicated. I've got some slides that I'll be glad to share with you that kind of spell out the process. Come see me over to the side and I'll be glad to email those to you. But we're really trying to simplify that process going forward. So feel free to come see me about that. So we talked about a full-time employee. What about an elected official?
Okay, if your unit decides to cover elected officials, they are eligible to enroll or decline in the plan. And an elected official is an individual that's elected to public office by the vote of the people at the state, county, or municipal level of government.
Okay, again, the key phrase there is by the vote of the people. Okay, you may have a water board director that's appointed or someone in an appointed position. They're not considered an elected official under our definition. It's got to be a vote of the people. And I believe that brings us to our first question.
Yes. John Smith works 32 hours per week at his unit. His unit classified him as a part-time employee, so he is not eligible for coverage in the LGHIP.
I saw over here to the left. False? Okay, do you know why?
Because he works more than 30 hours a week.
That's right. That's right.
That's right.
Congratulations. All right, so we know who our people are, let's talk about the enrollment process and for new employees.
Okay, so your unit has chosen an effective date for your employees that is either date of hire or the first day of the second full month of employment. We would like to receive your enrollment forms or declination forms as soon as possible, especially in those date of hire cases, but no later than 30 days after the employee is hired.
And the 30-day requirement, does that also apply to someone that's going from part-time to full-time or less than 30 hours to more than 30 hours?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, so those need to be reported within 30 days also. And you mentioned enroll or decline and provide acceptable proof. What do we consider acceptable proof?
That's right. So if your employee decides they do not want to take the insurance and they want to decline, they will have to provide proof that they have other coverage. And that can come to us as a proof of coverage letter from the insurance carrier, a Medicare card, a letter from an employer stating that the employee is currently covered, or a copy of a military ID card. A couple of things that we cannot accept are an insurance card, an explanation of benefits, or a pay stub or a 1095.
And the purpose behind that is because those don't show active coverage. We need something that shows an effective date that shows that the coverage is still active, and that's what we're looking for on the proof.
Okay, on to the next thing. Let's talk about employees that transfer between units.
Transfer employees to us are those employees who work for one local government unit and then leave that unit and go to another participating local government unit in the same calendar month. You can see how that can present a unique challenge for us. And so under our rules, the employee would have coverage through his previous unit through the end of that calendar month. And so if you're a date of hire unit, again, you can see how that can present a little bit of a challenge. And so we've got a couple of examples to show that will kind of flesh this out for you. But if you're a date of hire unit, essentially the coverage will start on the first day of the next month. And so we've got an example here of John, who's covered under Unit A. He terminates his employment on August 14th to begin working with Unit B. Unit B is a date of hire unit. So John would have coverage through Unit A through the end of the month of August, and then his coverage with Unit B would start on September 1. And that's just so that we're not double billing. It's just a cleaner process for us. Now, the other scenario is if you're first day of second month. And in that scenario, it's the same fact pattern. He leaves in the middle of August. He'll have coverage through Unit A through the end of August. And then, because it's first day of second month, his coverage with his new unit will be October 1st. Okay, and it'll be treated just like any other employee that you hire. And if you're in that situation under Unit B and you want to provide coverage during that gap, because he will have a gap in the month of September, he can take COBRA from his previous employer, and you're welcome to pay for that COBRA for that 1 month if you choose to do so. So just keep that in mind. All right, so what do we consider an eligible dependent?
An eligible dependent would be your spouse, your biological, adopted, or stepchild that's under the age of 26, a dependent under the age of 19 that you have custody of, or an incapacitated dependent child over the age of 26 that meets certain requirements.
And I think that brings us to our next question.
Yes, next question. Which of the following is not an eligible dependent? A 24-year-old son. B, a 16-year-old cousin for which the member has legal and physical custody. C, a 28-year-old ex-spouse. Or D, 25-year-old adopted daughter.
Right here. I see. I saw her first.
The ex-spouse.
That is correct. So the ex-spouse is not eligible, regardless of what the divorce decree may state.
That's right. Do you want to give us some examples of other dependents that are not eligible?
So those are the main ones that we see. You see an ex-spouse or ex-stepchildren, again, regardless of what the divorce decree may state. The other one is your spouse, if they're independently eligible for coverage as another unit. We talked to someone this morning with that very issue. So if your spouse is eligible as an employee of another unit, they're not eligible for family coverage under their other spouse. And really, let me harp on the divorce process for a minute and bring this to your attention. So it's very, very important that you guys notify us of divorces timely. We do get a monthly report from the Department of Public Health. The problem with that report is it's 1 month in arrears. So if you get divorced in the month of October, you're not going to show up on our report until November. Well, we're already providing coverage during the month of November for that ex-spouse, and we're paying claims for that ex-spouse that we should not pay. And it's really important that we get timely notified of that. It helps the plan as a whole. It helps us avoid claims that are unnecessary, and it helps one of those things that keeps our premiums down for everybody. So please, please, please report those divorces timely to us so that we can avoid paying for coverage that's unnecessary. So we talked about canceling. What about enrolling, or not canceling? We talked about, canceling dependents. What about enrolling dependents?
Okay, so outside of open enrollment, we have special enrollment. We would have to be notified within 60 days of these events, but some examples of this are adding a dependent due to marriage or birth or due to the loss of other coverage. So if any of these happen, you'll need to send us the form and the documentation within 60 days of that event. Of course, always as soon as possible so we can get it processed, but 60 days within that qualifying life event is when we need to know so that we can add that dependent to coverage.
And it's very important that you provide the documentation to support that life event. We really need the marriage certificate, the birth certificate, adoption papers, anything that you have to be able to support that special enrollment. How many are familiar with the tag-along rule? Okay, this is a very good rule, and it's one that shows up, and this is the most common example that we see. You've got a husband and wife, no children. It's easier for them to have single coverage, or cheaper for them to have single coverage through their employer, so that's what they do. They get pregnant, they're expecting their first child. When the child is born, now it makes more sense to just have family coverage with one. Let's just pretend they're not in their local government plan, they're separate. And when the child is born, the spouse can then piggyback off of that birth of the child to join the husband's plan or the wife's plan, however that works. And so it's a really good rule, and that's just a common example, but any kind of special enrollment scenario that allows someone to be added to the plan, others in the family can then join as well off of that. So keep that in mind for your employees.
That's right. And another type of special enrollment that we have are national medical support notices. So can we touch on that a little bit?
We can. Guys, these are the orders that come through DHR. It's your child support orders. It's not a court order. It's not a divorce decree. They typically come from Child Support Agency in Alabama. That's always going to be DHR. And they're ordering coverage for the child. And there's a two-step process to this. There's an employer response, and then there's a plan administrator response. The first step is for you guys to determine if there's enough money in the paycheck to pay for family coverage. If there's not, then you would just fill out the employer response and send that back in. But if there is, then you send the plan administrator response to us, and we will fill that out and provide coverage. Now, as long as this order is in place, we have to provide family coverage for that child. Even in a scenario where you may have an employee who's declined coverage, we then have to enroll him in family coverage and provide coverage for that child. And the coverages last until the order is rescinded or done away with. So there's two forms. Again, the plan administrator response is one that we fill out. Very important that we do not fill this one out. Please do not fill this out, because we'll have to send it back to you, ask you to white it out, and that just creates a whole problem. So please just send it to us. You guys will fill out the employer response and send that in. All right, and that brings us to our next question. We're going to ask this question before we get to the topic. So this involves terminating employment. When should you contact us to let us know when an employee terminates employment? As soon as possible, is that?
That's right. As soon as possible, but no later than 30 days.
So again, as soon as possible, no later than 30 days. And does that also apply in a situation where someone goes on leave without pay, or you're canceling employment due to retirement?
Yes. And in retirement, it is very important that we receive that information 30 days prior to retirement.
What about canceling family coverage?
Okay, if you need to cancel family coverage due to a qualifying event, such as divorce, or the dependent gains other coverage, or you have a loss of custody, or Medicare or Medicaid entitlement, that you would submit a dependent cancellation form for any of those. If you need to cancel coverage for your employee, there's a few ways you can do that. You can complete a cancellation form and you can mail it to us, or you can email it to us. Or our last option is our online cancellation possibility through the portal. So can we pull that up?
Yeah, so we're talking about, in this situation, canceling coverage for our employees. And so you can cancel coverage through for your employees through our online cancellation portal. And it's a really simple process that we're really excited about. So
Yes, I wanted to show you how quick and easy it is. So once you log in to your portal, you'll see all of the options on the right side. All you have to do is click Cancel Employee Contract. You'll find your employee. You'll pick your cancel reason, the date. You'll click this little acknowledgement saying that you are submitting correct information and click submit. And that's all you have to do. That information will come to us and we will know that it's time to cancel your employee.
Hey guys, I got a question back here.
Oh,
I have an employee whose daughter is 23. She's a dependent on the local government. She's getting married. Is she still eligible for coverage?
she is. She is. Under the ACA rules, she can remain on the plan until she's age 26.
Is that what you also do retirees?
no, the retirees, you'll have to submit the form to us. There is additional information that we often need with retirees. So this is to cancel an employee that is terminating coverage. You'll need to contact us and email us or mail us the retiree forms 30 days or prior to retirement.
But if it is a retiree, if you have somebody who's retiring and they are canceling coverage, they're not going to continue coverage with us, then you could utilize the online cancellation for that.
All right. So once you cancel your employee, they will, in most cases, be offered COBRA coverage. So, Chris, can you tell us about the COBRA coverage?
I can. So under the federal law, units are responsible for notifying us within 30 days of the following events: end of employment, a change in hours that impacts coverage. So if you go from more than 30 hours to less than 30 hours, they're no longer eligible. You need to notify us within 30 days of that. And then also death of employee. And again, this goes back to what we talked about earlier. Our cancellation rule is as soon as possible, no later than 30 days. It mirrors the federal COBRA rules. And the reason that is important is because under the federal COBRA rules, employers can be subject to a $100 per day penalty for every day they're beyond the 30-day timeline. So very, very important that you make note of that and tell us as soon as possible. Also, it's very important that you note on the cancellation form if the cancellation is due to gross misconduct, if you're involuntarily terminating someone due to gross misconduct, because in that scenario, they're not eligible for COBRA. But if you don't notify us of that and you just check involuntary termination, we're going to offer COBRA as if we normally would. And we've even added that to our cancellation form. We've added that to the online cancellation process. You've noticed on the portal that was an option. You can check for gross misconduct. So please tell us about that. Oftentimes the question will come up that asks, what is gross misconduct? And you're probably going there, right? So I can't tell you that. And the reason I can't tell you is because under federal law, it's really not a defined term. There's some case law that kind of fleshes it out. I tell people all the time, you know it when you see it, right? It is typically a felony of some sort, or it's not just mere insubordination generally. But I would also stress that if you're dealing with one of those situations, to consult your legal counsel, because there's all kinds of issues that may arise from that type of situation. So it's very important that you talk that through with your legal counsel if you find yourself in that scenario. And then once we get the cancellation form, what do we do at that point?
Once we receive the cancellation form, we'll process that termination and we will mail your employee a COBRA election form. And depending on the situation, coverage will be offered to them for either 18 or 36 months. And if the employee decides to elect to take the COBRA coverage, they will have to return that form to us within 60 days.
Again, 60 days, very important that they get that to us, and that's from the postmark date, okay? So all the things that we've talked about can occur throughout the year, but let's talk about open enrollment. Tell us about our open enrollment period.
Okay. Our open enrollment period is November 1st through November 30th. And during open enrollment, our eligible members can enroll in health and voluntary coverages, add a dependent or family coverage, or drop a dependent or family coverage.
And just don't forget that units can also make changes during open enrollment. You can change your effective date of coverage. You can add or drop retiree coverage. You can add or drop dental coverage, and you can add or drop coverage for elected officials. So all of those changes that you can make are changes that you can make during open enrollment as well. So all the things that we've just talked about are really primarily focused on our Blue Cross medical plan, but we also offer some Southland voluntary benefits. So let's talk about the enrollment side of that. Tell us about Southland.
That's right. So our Southland coverages are optional, unlike the health insurance where we require the employee or enroll or to enroll or decline. The Southland is a supplementary policy that your employees can elect, and they can elect that at their initial hire, during open enrollment, or with a qualifying life event. And there are 3 policies that we offer through Southland, which are dental, vision, and cancer.
Can an employee add their family to Southland coverage?
Yes, they can. At initial hire, or open enrollment, or within 60 days of a qualifying event.
We're really excited about a new benefit that we're offering this year. This is our Southland Cancer Policy. You're going to hear more about this later from Joe Hoka. Joe's driving down from Tuscaloosa, Roll Tide. But he's going to give you some more information about it later. But our cancer policy is one that it helps offset the out-of-pocket cost incurred with a qualifying cancer diagnosis. It has a daily reimbursement for hospital confinement, and these benefits will pay regardless of other coverage. So it's really an indemnity plan to help those out that find themselves in that situation. It's a really good plan, and we're really excited to roll that out starting this year. So it will be in place starting January 1. Let's talk about retiree coverage, the best part of our presentation. How many of you cover retirees? Okay, good. For those of you who do not, Meg, what are some things that they need to know about our retiree coverage?
Okay, well, there are 2 types of retiree coverage. The first is non-Medicare retiree coverage, which is for your employees that are under age 65, so we're not Medicare eligible. The second type is our Medicare retiree coverage, which is for your employees that are Medicare eligible. If your unit decides to offer the coverage going forward, those are the retirees that will be offered to. So if you decide to offer retiree coverage, anyone that retires after the effective date of that retiree coverage is eligible. Also, local government bills the premiums for the retirees to your unit, and it's up to your unit to determine what portion you want the retiree to pay and to collect that portion of the premium from the retiree. So that's about the units. Can you tell us who is eligible to take part in this retiree coverage?
I can, and the first step goes back to what Michelle was saying. We depend on you guys to tell us who the retirees are initially. If you tell us that this person was terminated or involuntarily terminated, we don't know any different, so we're just going to process it as a cancellation. But if you tell this person they're going from active to retiree status, then we will run them through the retiree rules. The first step is the retiree must have 10 years of continuous coverage in our plan. Unless, like Hale County, who's new to our plan, and they're not going to have 10 years in our plan, right? So these people have to be enrolled continuously from the date you guys join until their retirement date. So they're not going to meet the 10-year requirement, but as long as they're continuously enrolled during that time period, they'll meet step 1, okay? So that's initial threshold. Then we go to 3 options. They can either have 25 years of service with a participating local government unit, or 60 years old, or they can meet the disability requirement, which is they have to be approved for disability by the Social Security Administration. No offense to our friends from RSA, we do not accept RSA disability determinations. It needs to be from the Social Security Administration. So again, 10 years continuous coverage in the plan, and then one of 3 things: 25 years, 60 years old, or disability. If you've got someone who has applied for disability but not yet been awarded, okay, we will process that as a COBRA. We'll process it as a cancellation, and if they're approved for disability during that 18-month period, then we will transition them back to retiree coverage. We just you need to let us know once they're approved from Social Security.
That's right. And if you have any questions, we understand that there are a lot of things that go in with these retirees. Kimberly Bennett is our retiree specialist, and she will be happy to answer any of your questions. You can call her, email her. I'm sure a lot of you have talked to her, but she's very, very knowledgeable and should be able to help with all of your questions. Another thing, what about Medicare coverage?
So we offer a Medicare Advantage plan through United Healthcare. Corinne is here to speak about that later, I believe. The main thing you need to know is your employees have to have Part A and Part B. As long as they have Part A and Part B, they will be automatically enrolled into the UHC plan. They'll be given an opt-out notice if they choose to opt out of coverage, but we'll automatically enroll them in Part A or in UHC coverage as long as they have Part A and Part B. What is the process of enrolling someone in retiree coverage? I believe we've updated that a little bit this year.
We have a new form just for retirees. We've worked really, really hard on this form, and we hope that it's going to be very clear and easy to understand. So you'll complete this form. You'll have a copy of it in your admin guide. This will be available on our website. Again, if you have any questions, you let us know. But you'll complete this form 30 days prior to your employee retiring. If your employee is under age 60 and will be retiring due to 25 years of service, you will also complete the years of service form you see up here.
And this form is a retiree enrollment form. So it's really only for those who are electing retiree coverage. If you're canceling coverage, you would still follow the same process that you previously.
That's right. Another topic we want to discuss is our retirees that return to work. So you want to go over that?
I can. So if you have a retiree who's returned to work, if they average 30 or more hours per week, they're going to be treated as a full-time employee under our plan. And so at that point, they would need to enroll or decline in coverage. The one caveat, though, is they can decline coverage using their local government retiree coverage. We make an exception for that because we understand that's a unique situation. So it's very important that if you have someone who's retiree returning to work and they go beyond that 30-day threshold, that you enroll or decline them. Now, if they choose to, and this is where you're going to need to counsel your retirees in this situation, if they choose to enroll in your active coverage, which means they've canceled their retiree coverage with their previous unit, they cannot then go back to that unit for retiree coverage. So if you offer retiree coverage, they could join your plan as a retiree, but that's very important in making that initial decision whether to enroll or decline in active coverage. So for those of you who are not offering retiree coverage, as we mentioned earlier, a common misconception is that that decision is set in stone, but that's not true. We just talked about the fact that we can make those changes during open enrollment. So tell us about the form they would need to submit.
Yes, that's exactly right. If you would like to update your retiree coverage to offer it, you will complete a unit change form, and we brought a whole bunch of those forms with us. So if you decide that that's something you want to change and you want to offer to your employees, you can go over to one of our tables in the back and grab one of those forms. If you decide to make that change, you would do it during open enrollment, and it would be effective the following January.
And for units that offer retiree coverage, do they have to meet additional criteria for the preferred premium?
They do. You either have to have 5% of your employees classified as retirees, or you can write in and certify to us, letting us know that you have offered it to all eligible employees.
And what is the financial impact of retiree coverage? What are the premiums?
Okay, so we have the premiums up here. The single cost of non-Medicare retiree coverage is $1,342. The family rate is $2,474. For our Medicare retirees, those premiums for a single coverage is $215, or family $430.
And remember, you guys determine how much the retiree ultimately pays, okay? And so one that we hear a lot is that units base this on how many years of service a particular person has with a unit working at that unit. So, example, if you have someone who's worked 25 years with your unit, you may want to cover 90%, 100%. It just varies, but that's a good idea of how you can gauge how much you want to subsidize of that employee premium so that you're treating everybody the same way. You can have it based on a sliding scale.
All right, true or false? To be eligible for retiree coverage, the participant must have at least 10 years of continuous coverage in the LGHIP.
False. Do you know why it's false?
Yeah, that's a great answer.
That is true. That is true. That's not the answer that we have up there, but that is true.
Stumped him. I
I'm going to
like
give
it.
you credit for that because the answer is false, and the reason it's false is because it does not have to be continuous coverage. Okay? Remember that 10 years, and maybe I didn't mention that earlier, but the 10 years of coverage in our plan doesn't have to be continuous unless you're in the plan less than 10 years. Okay, so we've talked about all of our processes. What about the forms that the units need to know about to submit these changes?
Okay, so on the screen, we have all of the forms that we would use to make all of the changes that we've talked about today. These are all available on our website. There will be a copy of each of these forms in your admin guide, but we'll quickly go over some of them. When your employee is hired, you'll complete either an enrollment form or a declination form. If you need to change any information for your employee, a last name or an address, you'll use a status change form. If you need to add a dependent, you'll use a new dependent form. To remove one, a dependent cancellation form. And to cancel an employee that has terminated employment, you'll use a cancellation form or that online option through your portal.
And I really think this is one of the better pages in our presentation because it kind of breaks down these all on one page. It's actually in the admin guide as well, but this is a very important page. What about our Southland forms? Do we have separate forms for Southland?
We do. If your employees want to enroll in Southland, we have a separate form for that. Also to cancel it or to change any of their information.
And how do they submit the documentation to us?
They can mail it to us or they can email it to us at enrollments.lghip.org.
Okay, guys, that is our presentation, but we're really excited at this point to bring up Tara Holloman. Tara is our auditor, and she's going to give you an audit update. And I don't know if you're like me or not, but the term auditor has a negative connotation, but we wanted to bring up Tara because Tara is really a shining star in our organization. We're really proud of her, and you'll get to meet her today and understand, put a face with a name and understand she's really nice. She's not a bad guy. She just wants to doing her job. And so, Tara, you've been doing this for a while now. Can you give us an update on the audit process?
Yes, we've audited approximately 2/3 of our units, and most of the violations are coming from declination, enrollments, and cancellations.
All right, and the largest number of violations, I think, was declination forms. Why do you think that is?
Our rules state that if an employee works an average of 30 or more hours per week, they're eligible to participate in the plan.
And again, guys, it's very important that you tell us about not just those that are enrolling in the plan. Those are declining. That's the majority of violations that she finds. What about cancellations? What are you finding on cancellations?
Cancellations are employees that are still on the plan that should not be because they're no longer eligible. The best way to avoid this issue is to look at your bill every month and reconcile it.
Yes, that's right. Look at your bill every month. Make sure there's no one on the bill that no longer works at your unit, so you're not paying those premiums. And make sure that everyone that is supposed to be enrolled is on that bill. And if you see any discrepancies, call us, and then we'll help you figure it out.
And when it comes to cancellations, one other thing I want to point out is remember the Cobra fine issue that I mentioned earlier too. So it's not just a local government issue, it's a federal issue that you may be jeopardizing your unit with if you don't tell us about those timely. So very important that you cancel the employee's coverage in a timely manner. How many of you have already been audited? Okay, so you know the process, but for those of you who have not been audited, Tara, can you tell us about the process?
Yes, so a notice is sent to your unit through mail and email, and you're given 10 days from the date of the letter to respond with your documents. After we review the documents that you send in, we'll send follow-up questions that we have, and then when all of the information is received and our audit is complete, we'll send you a closing letter.
Okay, so for those of our unit administrators that haven't been through the audit process, are there any helpful hints you'd like to give them?
Make sure your unit contact information is up to date. Again, reconcile your bill every month to make sure people aren't on there that are supposed to be, and then reply to emails in a timely manner.
All right. Again, those unit change forms. If you have any contacts at your unit that you need to change or add, those forms are here today. So a big important part of this audit process is that we can contact you and we have all of your most recent information. So if there's anything that you guys can think of that you need to or change on your contacts, please grab one of those forms while you're here today and then send it to us so we can make those changes.
All right, and we have an audit-related question. So the question is, once you receive an audit notice, how long does your unit have to respond to the requested documents?
10 days.
10?
10 days.
Calendar or business?
Calendar.
Business. I'll give you credit for it because that was tricky on my part, but it's 10 business days.
It was 2 weeks slow.
Fair, fair. We also offer an email option,
Yes.
right?
You can email us everything. We love email.
Tara, how do they contact us? You've got your contact information up here?
Yes, we have our contact information. It's me. My name's Tara. We have Beth, and then we also have Rhonda. So there's our phone numbers and our emails if you need to contact us.
If anyone has any questions, now would be a good time to ask them. We can take a few. Sure.
Yes. Are dependents eligible once you retire? Can you have dependents on your plan? Yes, you can.
I have one employee, sorry that was loud, that he works more than 30 hours a week for us, but his local gov coverage is through a different unit. So does he need a declination form for me, or will that cancel his coverage for the unit he actually has coverage through?
So it wouldn't cancel. The best thing he could do in that case is decline the coverage with your unit, and then he would keep the current coverage he has if that's what he wants to do. But he would be eligible, say something happens with that other unit, to come on with your unit if he decided not to work there.
Okay, so just future thinking, like if he quit the opposite job, does that count as a qualifying loss of coverage to immediately enroll with us?
It does.
Okay. I have one more. Sorry. We have a library that is paid through our town, and some of them do work the 30 hours a week. They're actually paid monthly, so they work more than 120 hours a month. Some months, though, it's not every single month. Do they need a declination?
Well, if they're consistently working 30 hours or more per week, they would be eligible. So what we would probably need to do is look at that and see what they're averaging. So if they're averaging those 30 hours, then they do need to enroll or decline.
Okay.
They can. And so the question was, if you've declined the medical coverage, can you still enroll in the Southland voluntary benefits? And absolutely, you can. The question was, if you've got someone who just works for your agency 3 months, in your case it was 3 months as a lifeguard or a summer job, and would they be eligible under the plan? And it goes back to the ACA rule and how you're tracking those employees, but you have to track their hours during the measurement period, and the minimum measurement period is 3 months. So if it's truly a summer job, you're tracking their hours, but if they leave after 3 months, there's really no coverage to provide because they're no longer employed. One more question.
If one of those same, not all of them, but a few of them come back because they're college kids, so they may come home for Christmas or something, and they may work some hours at our community center, and then they're gone again. I still have to track those, and even though they are outside that 3 months now, because they may come in November, December, and work a couple weeks. Will they now become eligible because of that?
So it really depends on how you do your measurement period. The minimum measurement period is 3 months, but it can be anywhere from 3 months to a year. Okay? You don't have to do 3 months, but hypothetically, let's say you do 3 months, and during that 3 months, they are eligible during that time period. They would be eligible for coverage for a continuous year if they average more than 30 hours during that time period. So it's very important that you would probably treat them like a full-time employee. But you don't have to have a 3-month measurement period. You could have a 6-month measurement period, and if they don't get to 3 months, 6 months. But again, all these are very important questions, but They're very technical, and if you have a legal counsel, I would advise that you talk to them about that because it's very technical. All right, guys, we will be here over to the side if you have any questions, but this is my time to pitch the administrative guide. I can't tell you how important this book is. Meg will tell you every week she will stop me generally with, hey, I've got a scenario I want to run by you. And my first response generally is, what does the admin guide say? And I find myself, if I try to just give an off-the-cuff response, generally, I may get it wrong. And so my first response is always, let's go back to the admin guide. If it's in the admin guide, go with that. But if it's not, then you can call us and we will address it. But really read this and try to memorize the rules as much as possible, because generally everything is covered in here, or at least we try to.
All right, let's give it up for our team up here. Chris Brody, Meg McHutchison, Tara Holloman.